A small note on damage falloff distances. When we call out changes to damage falloff distance, we always do so according to a weapon's base damage falloff, which is hipfire, and I've mentioned this in previous videos. Damage falloff distance increases differently based on a weapon's zoom. So for example, the fusion rifle distance changes as described below, or the hand cannon distance changes called out previously will be higher when zoomed. So an example of this is hand cannons have 1.4 times zoom. This is read as 14 zoom value in the database. So you actually take their value and multiply it by 1.4 for the ADS value. Weapon archetypes. Precision 450 RPM auto rifles. This subfamily fell behind other auto rifles in the auto rifle tuning last year, so damage has been increased to be closer to the time to kill of others. Increased precision, 450 RPM auto rifle damage per bullet from 17 to 18. So a very, very subtle change. This will probably just slightly nudge the time to kill because the precision auto rifle time to kill was already pretty slow if I recall. So this seems like, again, a very subtle change. Probably, I'm gonna assume, decreasing like the time to kill by like a bullet or so. Fusion rifles. The recent buff to fusion rifle ranges had the side effect of making the best subfamily for PvP, the high impacts, even better. So we decided to bring low range stat fusion rifles up a fair bit. Increase the damage falloff short start distance for fusion rifles, no effect on 100 range stat, but plus 2 meters on the 0 range stat. Now, that's an interesting change. I want to say I would rather have just a nerf to the fusion rifles range to bring them more in line rather than a buff, but this is a very subtle buff. This is like your basically your ceiling for range isn't changing. It's just like the lower end of your range is going to be higher than what it currently is. It's going to not be as low on the scale, so they're just condensing that a bit towards what the 100 value is of range. Oh, I see. I understand the high impact reserve change is what you guys are saying on high under pressure. So on weapons that already had that ammo value, you had to fire it to take effect and acknowledge it. Now you don't have to. Okay, so for fusions, this is a fusion buff, essentially, as far as special weapons go. So, yeah, that seems like some nice fusion rifle buffs by proxy. I don't know other weapons that are really taking advantage of this technical change, but yeah. All right, this is an interesting one. We got cones. Hipfire grip. We're being careful not to overbuff this since the hipfire is too effective. It changes the game significantly. So we're bumping this just a bit over this season of Arrival's buff to make it a more useful option. Plus 1 degree precision hipfire angle threshold. So that's the cone angle for hipfire. And plus 1.2 times reticle stickiness fall off distance. Oh wow, so this is going to make it so that you get better reticle friction on controller for further distance, 1.2 times the current value, I assume. 1 degree doesn't seem like that much. So like, again, that is, I think, actually a lot, you know, but anyways, 1 degree doesn't seem like that much, but for reference, hand cannon aim assist cones angle is 2.5 degrees at 0 aim assist. Oh my god, we're getting specific values of hand cannon aim assist cones. Crazy. It's 2.5 degrees at 0 aim assist. I gotta like record this. I gotta save this for further reference. And 3 degrees at 100 aim assist. Yeah, so our targeting mods, and when we say there's 100 aim assist hand cannons, that's only shifting the cone angle, the aim assist cone angle, to 3 degrees at the maximum value. And that's a lot. I'm pretty sure we can all say we feel that. And you can feel the difference between a 90 aim assist hand cannon and a 100 aim assist hand cannon. Yes, that's a 0.05 degree increase. And I can wholeheartedly say, I think we can say we can feel that aim assist cone difference. So a 1 degree difference on hipfire grip is pretty massive. That's very significant. That's gonna be some thick cone changes for hip firing. And they have a note here that precision hipfire angle caps at the aim down sight's aim assist cone angle. Now, what comes to mind is, yes, this perk is going to be great. It's going to be a lot more effective. We think of Mida Mini Tool, which has it inherently. It's kind of a cool option. But I know what we're all really thinking about. The last word. This is a massive last word buff. And I honestly wonder if this is going to change the viability of it on mouse and keyboard as well. Remember, these aim assist changes, these are all the same. The only thing that's different is the 1.2 times reticle stickiness fall off distance. That's the only thing that's different for a controller. The margin of error, like I call it in my videos when I say mouse and keyboard has the same margin of error, what I'm talking about is that degrees. The size of the actual cone in degrees that you have as your margin of error. So this is a massive change. Again, they scale it. We know how significant these aim assist values are, and they give us perspective on how subtle of a change they are. 0.05 degree increase. And we notice that when we're using our weapons. A 1 degree increase is massive for aim assist. And again, like the accuracy of the weapon. So I think this is going to make the last word even more insane on controller, but perhaps make it much more viable on mouse and keyboard even, and bring that up to controller a little bit more. I anticipate this making it a bit better on controller and hopefully a lot better on mouse and keyboard. So that's interesting. And that's a really interesting point that you make in chat, is the last word buff is an SMG nerf. Yeah, I mean, last word will step on SMGs a little bit more, but SMGs also have access to hipfire grip, so we'll see how that goes, right? But last word having a higher DPS, of course, does counter SMGs a fair bit. The consistency of hipfire weapons with this perk is going to be much better, I anticipate. This is a crazy change. All right, we got Iron Grip, Iron Gaze, and Iron Reach. More cone talk, I think, perhaps, maybe. We were cautious when making the stat bump perks in Season of Arrivals, not wanting to break weapon stat ranges at too low a cost, but the penalties these shipped with were too much now that we've seen them in the wild. So they reduced their stat penalties from -40 to -30. Cool. I think that's good. I like that. Still penalties, still big penalties, but not like menacing penalties. A little bit more subtle. Osmosis and Elemental Capacitor. We didn't have time to address these when Stasis came into being, but always wanted to make them work correctly when playing Stasis. Osmosis now switches the weapon to Stasis damage when playing a Stasis subclass. That's pretty cool. This should work for any mechanics that ask for Stasis damage, but not for the Stasis ability damage. Also created Stasis VFX for all weapon types that Osmosis can appear on. That's really cool. I hate that I dismantled all mine when I realized it didn't work. An Elemental Capacitor with a Stasis subclass grants recoil direction and reduces ADS move speed. Wow, that is really strong. So not only does it give you recoil direction, which might be subtle to some, but it reduces the ADS move speed penalty. I'd love to know this value and find that out. So different weapons have a different ADS move speed penalty, and that obviously affects your strafe. The reason why, or if we look at, let's say, SMGs, I think Christic Knight, who is a user on Reddit and a frequent member of our community here on Twitch, he often comes to the stream. He knows all about this stuff. He's the one that tests all this stuff, and I use his information. SMGs and sidearms have the lowest penalty. And if you want to feel what it feels like to have no penalty for strafing, put on something like Peacekeepers. So Elemental Capacitor with Stasis will now, if you have this on a Dire Promise as an example, reduce that penalty on hand cannons. So your strafe is going to be crazy with a hand cannon. So I think this is a really positive and unique change to not give it, you know, the weapon too much of a impactful stat, but still be something very creative and useful. That's really cool. All right, so we got no distractions buff. Let's go. I'm sitting here with my snapshot no distractions roll of a not far future frozen orbit that I've been using for a while. Because of an exotic change below and the sniper rifle flinch changes in Season of the Chosen, we wanted to make no distractions a more appealing option for combating flinch. Reduce trigger time from 1.5 seconds to 1 second and increase flinch reduction from 30 to 35%. Okay, so that's a sizable change in flinch reduction. So you're gonna have that on top of your unflinching perks, and of course you can get double unflinching. I often use that with my sniper, especially when you have last word, which doesn't really need an unflinching. So that is substantial. And they reduce the trigger time from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. honestly, this is gonna make the perk a lot more viable, but I'm hesitant to say, like, I think one or the other could have been enough. This might be a subtle change, like 30 to 35%, but I really think one or the other could have been enough, and both maybe might be a little. I'm just hoping that sniper flinch doesn't go haywire again. So I hope that sniper flinch doesn't, you know, when you have this perk, you just don't beam people again, but we'll have to wait and see. But both of these are pretty substantial. Adept mag, adept targeting, same reason as the Iron Banner perks. We were cautious initially, but think it's fine to reduce the penalties for those perks, having seen them in action. I think so too. They reduced the secondary penalty from 20 to 15. I think these perks should have a penalty. Things like adept targeting that increase your aim assist cone quite a bit. Having that stability bonus, or that stability reduction, makes sense. I believe it's a stability penalty because stability directly governs how persistent your aim assist stays. So this means essentially the adept targeting mod at its peak, you know, at peak stability is giving the full effect, but that reduces as you have lower stability. And I think that, again, that's a subtle reduction to invite players to use that a little bit more despite having that penalty. I think that's fine. Fixed adept mag not granting reserves when applied to a sword. Cool. Adept counterbalance. This didn't feel like enough of an upgrade over standard counterbalance stock to be worthwhile, so they increased the recoil direction benefit. That's cool. I thought it was pretty good already, but cool. Not gonna say no to that, right? Let's see Mida, guys. This could be the moment I was waiting for. I love Mida. You guys know I love Mida. I'm excited for this. This might be the hill I said I would die on. The outlaw meme. We've been so long with this meme. I said I'd die on this hill. I'm almost nervous to look at it. Mida multi-tool. We've seen many requests. We've seen many requests to switch this from outlaw to something more useful. And one thing we've observed is Mida's losing fights to weapons that cause more flinch. Yes! 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 Oh, thank God! We made it! We did it! The Raid Shadow Legends memes that brought us here. Thank you, Bungie. Oh my God. Oh my God. And no distractions. I complain about it all the time. I love using Mida, but all the time, I swear, I cannot shoot straight. And no distractions, you know what? Like, there's a bunch of things you can put on it, but no distractions combined with the buff is going to be good. Wow, I am going to use Mida a lot. This alone, I am so excited for. Thank God the outlaw meme can finally rest. Oh, I don't even know what, I don't even know if I care about the Hawkmoon change at this point. Increased priority of paracausal charge and paracausal shot buff text. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that, I mean, this was hard to follow up, but this one just, yeah, I don't know. Oh man, Mida is back on the menu. I want to go fast and shoot straight. We don't expect the change to the 2 dominant shotguns, replacing quick draw with surplus, and nerfing quick draw to really move the needle on shotgun usage overall in PvP. We agree with some of the comments that weapon usage is not only dependent on tuning, but that map design is also a factor. Yes, however, we want more weapons to be viable on all maps, and we can achieve this through tuning, giving other special weapons room to excel. Specifics coming later. Okay, nothing yet, but more shotgun changes are coming, and they acknowledge that the maps are part of it. So this is going to be interesting. I'm excited for this. I'm very excited. You guys just hear me mauled about shotguns, I think, every day on stream now. It's like my stream content now. So I'm very excited about this. Dead Man's Tale. With the upcoming nerf to 120 hand cannon range, we expect to see a surge in Dead Man's Tale usage, which is already pretty high on PC especially, right? PC, like this thing is dominating the meta as far as I can tell. We've had enough moving pieces in Season 14 that we didn't want to try and squeeze this one in at this time, but we have a change ready to go that reins in its ability to challenge sniper rifles, 120 hand cannons, and scout rifles while in the hip fire without detracting from the fantasy of the weapon. Awesome. So they got a Dead Man's Tale change lined up. I honestly didn't expect this. because it was so soon, but this is really good, especially for the PC players. Fusion rifles. As with some of our other changes, we don't want to bump these up too much too fast. We've seen many changes in this TWAB already that are kind of by proxy helping fusion rifles, so this is a good choice, I think. And they're saying they're going to follow up if need be. And that is the TWAB.